It's going. Hey, folks, how you doing? This is Wayne S. Pierce from American Liberty Radio Network right here on The Truth Experience. Yay! I'm live. It's not a recorded podcast. Holy crap, I'm here. We got a guest on tonight. Yes, I have a guest. Finally, I figured out the tech issues, and hey, I have a guest. Let's get right into it. From Distorted Reality with Nick Tucker, it's Nick Tucker. Yeah. How you doing, Nick?
I'm doing great, Wayne. How you doing?
I'm doing good. You almost sound like Joey from Friends. How you doing?
I'm just excited to be here, man. It's been a long time since I've been on your show. I'm ready to rock and roll.
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah, we're going to talk about a whole lot of stuff. I don't know what, but it's sooner or later we'll get to some subject, I guess. But I want to.
That's how it works with us.
Exactly. When I'm on your show, it's like, okay, here's the subject, but an hour and a half later, we're like, oh yeah, we were talking about this.
But it's all informative, so it's all good.
It is, all of it. The one thing I saw earlier before coming on was Rand Paul. We all love the Kentucky Republican, Rand Paul. He called out the GOP Senate for the Obamacare Light bill. Yeah, he don't like it, and neither do I.
It's all the same. There's nothing different about it. There might be a few tweaks here and there, but still the same core issues are there, the same core complaints that a lot of people had, that I know you and I have when looking at Obamacare and this Trump care, or whatever we want to call it. It's just all one and the same. It's nothing new. It's all the same spin, the same game. And, until we get more Rand Pauls out there to, talk truth and spread the message, unfortunately, it's going to be all one and the same.
Yeah, it's almost they're in action in Congress about this to get rid of it, to repeal it, to throw it in the trash where it belongs. It's just a slap in the face to the Americans.
It really is, and unfortunately, I don't see it changing anytime soon. And I know that there's plenty of other people out there who know the truth and know the facts that will agree with us and say that this isn't going to change. And it is a slap in the face to all of us that understand the truth and understand what's really going on. And unfortunately, there's just so many people in Trump's cabinet that are in his ear that want to push the same globalist agenda. He might not want to, speaking about Trump, but he's got a lot of people in his ear that are pushing the same ideals that Obama, when Obama was in, and Bush was in, and Clinton was in, and the rest goes on and on. So it's all one and the same.
It is, and they've still got Obama holdovers in the Department of Justice. Speaking of whispering in his ear, I mean, they're telling him all kinds of things, and it's just it's to me it's the same game they're playing, but different players, and it's just to me they know what the people want, but unfortunately the Soros, the Rothschilds, all those, they look at us as like, we're going to create slaves in America. We're going to do the, and we can go into the whole detail about how that's going to happen, but that's a different podcast. To me, it's just, when I look at all this stuff, what Rand Paul is saying, what all these other people, and then you got the douchebag Chuck Schumer up there talking, and it's like, these people in the Progressive Party, and I want to call them that because they're, it's both parties together, and there's factions over on one side of Congress, but it's the Progressive Party, and they're just completely, they're insane. That's all I can say.
Well, they are insane. And when you've got people like Jonathan Gruber, and when you've got all the big insurance companies, and when you've got all the top, bank heads involved in writing so-called healthcare, a healthcare bill, a healthcare law, and then you get the same puppet politicians that these same big corporations, these big CEOs of some of these big banks, such as Goldman Sachs and some of these big insurance companies, when they're paying off these politicians to ram through a bill or to ram through a so-called health care law that does nothing but fatten their pockets and make them more rich. It's never going to change, and it didn't matter if it was Hillary Clinton, it didn't matter if it was Bernie Sanders, it doesn't matter if it's Donald Trump. Until we weed out the big corporations, until we get rid of the big bank heads, unfortunately nothing is going to change, because the healthcare law itself, the stupid Obamacare, was written and passed through to benefit those in power, not us so-called little people, us peasants as they see us. It had nothing to do with benefiting us. It had nothing to do with, giving us so-called free health care and affordable health care. It had nothing to do with that. All it had to do is to scam us that much more, and to put the profits in their pockets like they need any more profit whatsoever.
Yeah, it's all about the money. I mean, I say it. I know you echo the same thing. Follow the money. That's basically it. It's not that we vote for any of these people. It's not that they are, wanting or caring at all, wanting to care about us at all. I mean, it's all about the money. Who buys those offices in Washington, D.C.? That's all they care about. Let me give you a couple of $1 million to go rent that, room or whatever, And it's not the people's house anymore, the White House. It's the corporation's house. And unfortunately, it's all about the freaking money. And it's just, I mean, God, oh my God, I can go on and on about how California's in the freaking hole because, dumbass, Jerry Brown he's just a dictator. I mean, that's all he is. And talking about the healthcare bill, I mean, they literally just signed on to $400 billion to cover healthcare, and I'm like, where are they going to get that money? Because nobody in California wants their taxes raised, and that's the only way they can get it. And it's amazing to me, And Breitbart is saying that President Trump tweeted that he was very supportive of the Senate healthcare bill being unveiled. So I don't know if it's all the same and nothing's changed. Maybe a few words here and there and some kind of policies here and tweaking it a little bit. It just goes to show me that he's just another bobblehead in a suit.
Absolutely, and I say it all the time on my podcast, distortedreality.podbean.com. When you're on and when I'm doing a solo show, I say it all the time. They don't care about us. None of them in D.C. give a flying crap about any of us, and it's true. And if all you have to do is just look at something as simple as a healthcare bill, and people will say, well, Nick, it's not that simple when you're talking about, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people, and their health benefits and health insurance. Explain to me anywhere in this so-called Affordable Health Care Act and Obamacare and Trump Care and Obamacare Light, tell me anywhere in there does it say that they are here working for you to benefit you? It doesn't, because all the politicians are doing in D.C. is fighting over each other to make sure that their pockets are lined that much more, and they're fighting over their corporate masters, making sure that their pockets are lined that much more. They don't care about any of us, folks, at all. And people say, well, if Bernie was to get in, we would have had free universal health care. Explain to me, how is anything free in this world? Unfortunately, it's not. Would I like to, have free health care or free anything? Of course. But it doesn't work that way in the real world. Somebody has to pay for it. And I remember talking about this about a year ago on my show when I had said, if you look at free health care, who's going to pay for it? Well, all of us are in the long run, because our housing is going to go up. Our health insurance is going to go up. Our car insurance is going to go up. All of this, different, things that we pay on are going to go up in the long run to eventually pay off this accrued debt that we've made on something as simple as a healthcare bill. So there's nothing free. They don't care about any of us, and unfortunately, it's not going to change until we have more Rand Pauls that come out and expose this, on the big stage there in the Capitol there in D.C. That's what's going to have to happen, is someone like a Rand Paul and 100 other Rand Pauls to stand up and say, I'm putting my foot down. This is garbage, and this is why. But unfortunately, he's the lone voice in the vast wilderness of Washington, D.C.
Yeah, it's just to me it's just It's a group of people that are saying, how can we screw the American people, make it look like we're not screwing them, and take all their money? I mean, that's basically, to me, that right there is a mafia. I mean, you know, when you study out what organized crime was in La Costa Nostra and all that, that's basically what it was. I mean, you go to a bar and, you know, a bunch of people walk in, they say, we want to protect you, but you got to pay us. You know, it's like, well, I think we're paying taxes every year, and they're trying to protect us. And so, you know, it's like, wait a minute, we're paying way too much, and the value to that dollar for our protection is not working. We have to protect ourselves. And when it comes to healthcare, we have to do it ourselves. We have to look for alternatives, and I'm all for alternatives. We can't afford the Patients Affordable Care Act. We can't. There's no way. There's absolutely no way.
No, there is no way. And somewhere along the way, we've all lost our path. We've all lost the understanding of what's true and what's not. And when we're looking at, you know, our everyday lives and how we're being ripped off and scammed through our teeth, it's sickening, to be honest with you. If you look at something like this, you know, all day long, I've been battling with DMV here locally in Las Vegas, where I broadcast from. Just to end up getting a driver's license again. And something as simple as a driver's license, we don't need driver's licenses. That is our own God-given right under our Constitution, under our Bill of Rights, is the freedom to travel, is the right to travel. That is a right. That's not a privilege. But they take away our rights. They take away what's given to us under the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and sell it back to us. And that's what they do with healthcare. That's what they do with any kind of license, not just drivers, but business license, hunting license, fishing license. You have to have a license to do anything anymore. And all that is government stealing away your rights from you and then selling them back to you tenfold to make themselves richer and to put limits on it and to put taxes on it and to regulate the hell out of it, to where, you know, you can't do what it is that you should be able to do under the Constitution, the Bill of Rights. Instead, they're going to tell you what you can and cannot do with this so-called privilege now, when at the very beginning of it all, it was a right. This is our rights we're talking about. And somewhere along the way, all of us forgot all about this. All of us didn't want to stand up and fight for our rights anymore, and we just allow the government to steal them away from us, to sell it right back to us at a high price.
Yeah, exactly. And I try to get people to understand that when you're paying taxes, specifically property taxes, you're paying rent to the federal government. That's what you're doing. That land is not yours under your house. Your dwelling may be yours, and you paid a pretty penny for it, but not the land. And we need to go back to actual land owners that, that were, I don't know, 100 years ago or so, where everything under that house, including anything 100 feet below, is the homeowners. We need to go back to that, because it's basically comes down to the government creating a straw man that they can blame for everything, but we're sitting on the sidelines going, wait a minute, I didn't do that. I didn't authorize that. I didn't tell you can use my face, my figures, my, anything of mine for your benefit. That no. And again, it goes also back to, our God-given rights that we have, our natural laws that we went by before government got involved and said, maybe we can make a few bucks on this.
You just hit the nail on the head when you talked about the property tax, because that is a good case of point here. Is, you have a house, you think that you own this home, you might own the wood and the structure itself, so to say, but you don't own the land. None of us own any land. The federal government owns all of the land, unfortunately. And if people want to get technical about it and look into the deep truth and the deep history of everything, you can trace our country back to the Queen of England. She still owns parcels of land in the United States. You can go look at Israel. Israel has parcels of land in the United States. Our taxes that we pay goes back to the Queen of England. I thought that's what the whole War of Independence was for, was to get away from the taxation, to get away from the royalty, to get away from the Queen and the King and everything else. But we still live in servitude. We are still slaves, modern-day slaves. We might not have physical chains on us. That doesn't take away from the fact that we're still slaves. So when we're talking about property tax, where you don't pay your property tax, they come and take away everything that you supposedly own because you don't pay your property tax. You're exactly right. You're paying rent still on this piece of property that you spent hundreds of thousands of dollars in some cases to buy, to renovate, to fix up, to think that, you know, you have something that you're proud of, something that you can, you know, look back and say, I did this. But if you don't pay your property tax, guess what? It's all taken away from you. And let's look at the HOA. The HOA is another entity that needs to be null and void, taken away. You know, you have an apartment. I don't know why the HOA is involved in apartments, but they are. But you got the HOA that are going to issue you citations if you have a blade of grass that's over, you know, a certain amount of inches. If you're hanging the American flag out on the front of your house, you know, or if you've got a satellite dish, you know, bolted into the side of your home, or if you have solar panels and if that's not approved by the HOA, holy crap, you just committed this major offense. This is what I'm talking about. This is what you're talking about, Wayne. This is what we're trying to relate to the listeners, is that we're all in servitude. We might be comfortably numb to it. We might not want to accept it, but the chains are still on us. Nothing has changed.
No, it hasn't. And the sad part about it is that people go along with it. They say, oh, it must be good because if it's regulated, then we know that it's going to be safe. We know it's going to be, you know, it's not going to hurt us. We know that, you know, that neighborhood is going to be taken care of if they regulate certain things or we pay certain taxes. And the truth of the matter is that ain't happening. That just ain't happening. You can go to any neighborhood, and I'm sure, because I've been to Las Vegas. We were down there for about 3 days, and we went to some really sketchy neighborhoods. We were looking around just going, oh, let's see what it looks like over here. And we went to some literal sketchy neighborhoods right off the strip. And same thing with Reno. You go down the strip. If you go off of it east or west, holy crap, you're into some really bad neighborhoods sometimes. And, you know, so people look at that, and even when you look at the money that Vegas has, Las Vegas has all these big buildings, casinos, and the Winds and all this. And, of course, you know, Trump's children have some investments there in Las Vegas. And when you look at all that, my question is, where the hell is all that money going? If that state or that city wants people to be, you know, covered with health care or college tuition or whatever, don't you think some of these companies that own these casinos will, you know, fork out a couple of million that they make in possibly an hour of people going there, dropping their hard-earned dollars into a slot machine? Don't you think they have the ability to pay for some of this stuff? But no, the politicians are going, no, we don't want the people to do that. We want you to give us more of your money so we can go out and create wars in other countries and guard poppy fields in Afghanistan and bring the drugs in, you know, all that. And it goes down and down the line, and it's ridiculous. It really is.
Well, it's a facade too. You know, Vegas is a good case to talk about here. If you look at any movie, if you look at any TV show that has to do with Las Vegas, what do they show you? They show you the Las Vegas Strip. They show you all the glitz and glamour. They show you the showgirls. They show you the big casinos, the fountains, the lights, everything else, right? Well, if you just, you know, go 5 minutes outside the Strip on either direction, you're in a literal hellhole. And there's pockets of the Vegas area that are decent and nice, and we're talking, you know, high-priced homes. We're talking, you know, where the celebrities live. We're talking where they have armed bodyguards, and the list goes on and on and on. But for everyday people like myself and you, you know, we're not living in the life of luxury here in this state, and that's for every state. You know, they always show you the best of a state. They don't show you the outskirts of, you know, downtown or, you know, where the glitz and glamour of a certain city is, and they do that for a reason. But if you look at everything as a whole, and if you really look at everything cut and dry, all it is a facade. They pull the wool over our eyes and say, this is how it is, this is how it's going to be, and, you know, we'll make it better for you, we'll make it great for you, but, you know, behind your back, they're going to tear everything down, they're going to tear everything apart, they're going to make it worse than it was, you know, to begin with. And, you know, I'm not a Ronald Reagan supporter whatsoever. He had a lot of issues. I don't agree with a lot of what he said and what he did. But, you know, those words that he famously said were on point, you know, that I'm from the government. I'm here to help you. You know, if you hear those words, you run like hell.
Exactly. Where's the back door? I'm getting the hell out of here. Yeah, it's just I can go back in my own family history. I mean, my aunt, I wasn't even born yet. This happened. My mom told me this. This happened years like in the 40s and 50s. And my aunt was living on a farm. Her and my uncle were there, and some of these federal government people walked on her property, and she's like, and my mom told me she was there. My mom was there watching this, and my aunt was going, I wonder who the hell these people are, And the government literally said, if you don't grow over here on this part of your land, we'll pay you. My aunt told him, get the hell off of my property. And that was when you had landowners, not just, dwellers, home dwellers on this piece of land. And it's just ridiculous. And I agree with it. I didn't agree with everything that Ronald Reagan did, but when he said, when he literally went to Brandenburg, Gate and said, tear down that wall, I think he meant more than just, the wall between East and West Germany. I think he literally meant tear down all of it, start all over again, redo some things and get rid of things that aren't working. And as we look at that, we examine Washington, D.C. and all the nut jobs that are up there. We can see that they're running around with ideas and concepts and getting money here and getting money there, but basically what they're doing is nothing. I mean, you can see this in the healthcare bill that Trump, supports. And I'm like, get rid of the whole damn thing and let the states cover people and let people buy insurance across state line. And that was one of the options that they have, but they didn't go for it. That would have, dropped the cost of healthcare dramatically. And of course, the bigwigs didn't want that. They wanted their profit in their pocket so they can go to Las Vegas and spend money in the big buildings.
Well, it's all true. And once people understand that they're nothing but puppets there in D.C., then you start to get back on track to truth and understanding. If you look at states as individual states, and that's exactly what we are. We're all individual states. We're all sovereign states, just as we're sovereign citizens. Now, don't go running telling a cop that you're a sovereign citizen, because then you're going to be labeled and treated as a domestic terrorist under the NDAA. But we're all sovereign citizens. We're all sovereign states. Every state has its own constitution, its own state flag, its own state laws. You can buy alcohol here in Las Vegas 24 hours a day. You go across the border to California or Arizona or into Utah, you can't do that. And there's a reason that each state had their own ideas and their own laws and so on and so forth. But somewhere along the way, 1871, we got this stupid, act that came through and said, hey, our D.C. over here is going to be the nation's capital, and in doing so, we're going to make all the rules and regulations, and all you states are going to fall in line with it, because if you don't, you're going to lose all quote-unquote federal funding. Federal funding, my ass. That's why we have to pay to have driver's licenses, to drive on federally paved roads, government roads, so we can pay taxes back to the federal government. You see what I'm saying here, folks? It's a screw job, and that's all that it is a big screw job, and we're all getting screwed left and right everywhere we look.
Yeah, exactly. It's a massive skull plugging from the federal government, and that little 10 square mile piece of land is the only land they own. It's already there. You can go look it up. It's public record. They should not own any other land anywhere in the rest of the states. And that was the one thing that I saw, and I'm going, well, why are they doing this over here? Why is the BLM existing? Why is it? It's because money. It's because we have to go to these parks and go camping and pay overnight and do this and do that. And it's like, what? Wait a minute. To me, it's all about the money. And you're right. I mean, it's Washington, D.C., and we know what happens there and what doesn't happen, but it literally, to me, shows that they're, with the Act of 1871, it shows to me that they're more concerned about the corporation than they are about the people that spend their money in each state or pay their taxes in each state or whatever. They're more concerned about the corporation and pleasing their investors, as it were, than anything else. And like you said, and George Carlin said it too, they don't give a, F about you. They don't care about you, and that's exactly what it is. You're just, you're the rat in the cage going round and round and round on the wheel. And when you look at the highway system, when you look at the streets in your cities, when you look at at some of the ghettos and some of the bad neighborhoods, do you think the local law enforcement in that city is ever going to do anything to stop the crime? No, because there's profit in law enforcement. They don't care. If it was true law enforcement, then these people with badges on would go out there and kick some ass.
A lot of people don't know this and understand this, but our prison system in the United States is a run-for-profit prison system. Now, what does that mean? That means that the more prisoners that they're housing in these prisons all across the country, the more money the federal government is giving them, the more kickback that they're getting. It goes to the wardens, it goes to the superintendents, it goes to everybody that's involved in the high ups of the prison system. So when we look at that even and say to ourselves, our prison system is a facade. They lock you up for the smallest little thing, yet someone like a Hillary Clinton can bash the hell out of her email servers and laptops and everything else with sledgehammers and whatnot. She can go off and do all kinds of illegal activities. Obama can go off and do illegal activities. Bush can sign off and have 9/11 happen under his watch. Nothing ever happens to them. But God forbid you get pulled over in a vehicle and you have an ounce of pot on your person or in your vehicle. Oh shit, you're going to be locked up and taken away. You're going to be taken away into these prisons that are run for profit. This is the kind of lunacy that we're dealing with here. Is the simple fact that we can be locked up for months, if not years, for simple violations in their eyes, when they can get away with literally bloody freaking murder and nothing is ever done.
Yeah, it is. And you can look at, and you can go back in history. It's all in history. It's happened. It's they all do it. Former President Bill Clinton came out of Arkansas. He had the airstrip scandal there where, planes would come in and he just turned a blind eye to it and let the drug dealers do whatever they wanted, but he got a kickback for it. I mean, that's all on record. And witnesses have come out, or probably dead by now, knowing the Clinton cabal. But this has, happened. You can go back to the 70s where Richard Nixon was the top dog, and he knew about the Watergate break-in. He knew about them, these people breaking into the DNC, and it's like he did nothing about it. So instead of going to jail, he said, I quit, because he knew once he's impeached, if he knew about it, he was going to jail. He knew this. So what better way to end his presidency but just say, I quit, I'm out of here. And they couldn't do anything. They can't bring him up on charges for some reason. I don't know why. But this whole thing, the corrupt government, is what we're talking about. And we don't need a centralized government because, number one, it would get too big and corrupt. And our founding fathers told us that. Don't have a centralized government. And that's one of the reasons why. But we have a centralized government. It is over-regulating everything. Law enforcement is just the enforcers, if you will, of just their insanity from Washington, D.C. If you look at each state and you look at the law enforcement, and I'm not blanketing all law enforcement. There's some really good people out there trying to do what's right, but they're getting shafted. I mean, they're not getting the raises. They're not getting the promotions because they're doing what's right. And the ones that are corrupt and, taking money from this and that, yeah, they're the ones that are getting, booted upstairs and getting the bigger paychecks. And that happens in Washington, D.C. So as far as we look at this and we look at that facade of Washington, D.C., we think everything's fine, or not you and I. We know what goes on. Other people look at that and go, oh, yeah, they're doing this. We can vote these people out of office. Your votes don't count. It's about the money, who pays for the offices. So we look at all of this stuff. We examine every bit of it, and we're going, this is one cluster, in America, and we're the ones getting screwed, blued, and tattooed all at the same time. And they basically bend us over and say, here's what we're going to give you. And we are screwed over regulations. We got, again, you mentioned it, licenses for businesses, for fishing, for whatever. You need a license for a trailer on a car. I mean, come on.
Exactly right. And it really is all about the money. And, I've had people come to me in the past and say, Nick, with the knowledge that you have and what you talk about, why don't you run for some sort of a local office? Why don't you run for a mayor or even a governor, later on down the road? And I tell these people, look, I would love to venture into something like that, but here's the problem. Let's say that I had enough people that supported me locally, that raised money for me, and we did the fundraisers and the crowdfunding and everything else. Let's say that I was lucky enough to raise $20,000. Let's say even $40,000. That's all well and good. But when you got the opposite party, the big mainline parties, the Republicans and the Democrats, both one and the same, when they are raising $100,000 plus for some of these races, and some of these numbers are astronomical. We're not talking about presidential runs. We're talking about localized running. When you have that amount of money, that amount of influence, when you have some of these big corporations locally backing a certain candidate because they're going to scratch their back, so in turn those corporations are going to scratch his or her back, you see it's already a scam. It's already started off on the wrong foot. It's already started off on the skids. So if we look at it locally compared to nationally, nothing is different about it. It's who has the most money, who has the biggest corporate donors, and who's going to do what for who to get those people into power. That's all it is.
Yeah, it's power and it's prestige. If you look at all these Washington big elite parties and you look at and you examine, every single little opportunity that these people have to go to these parties, it's not about, oh, they had this speech over here and they did. No. Those parties are nothing more than the big elites working together with the senators and the lobbyists and the special interest groups and the big people, the big donors. I'm talking $1 million, $2, $3, $4 million. They look at these Washington politicians and the lobbyists and the special interest groups and the big elites that run Washington, D.C. go, here, I hope you will fulfill your promise and do what I tell you to do. I mean, it's cha-ching in Washington, D.C. It's not, ringing the bell of liberty. It's ringing the bell of the cash register up there.
And it's been like that for a very long time. If we go back and venture into history and look at how the Federal Reserve was created, when it was created off of a rumor that the stocks were going to plummet, that all of this was going to happen, and then it ended up happening to bring in the Federal Reserve under J.P. Morgan Chase and Patrick Warburg and the rest of them. It was those guys who came in and said, you know what, we need to figure out a way, along with the Rothschilds at that time and the Rockefellers of that time, to come in and say, you know what, we need to figure out a way to where we can control and regulate the flow of money into this country and elsewhere through a centralized banking system, which our founding fathers warned of us about. And we weren't supposed to have a centralized banking system, but guess what? We ended up having a centralized banking system with the Federal Reserve. And then you have the hit squad of the Federal Reserve called the IRS that came in not too long after, and you got your basic firing squad there. You've got a private company, a privately owned entity such as the Federal Reserve. That's not federal; it's private, owned by the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers. The list goes on and on. They come in and say, "We'll print you money to use in your own country." But guess what? You're going to owe us a debt for us to print this paper money that's not backed by anything anymore. It's not backed on gold. It's not backed on anything. It's just literally paper money that they are printing from their big, massive industrial printers for us to use in our own country. And they, in turn, charge us a debt on those pieces of paper that they are printing. That's why our national debt is so outlandish. That's why China is coming in and trying to swoop up our national debt to take control of the United States. That's a fact, folks. That's on my YouTube channel. But this is what I'm getting at here, is that it's all based on greed. It's all based on domination. And we are not the first people to talk about this. We can go back and look at ancient times, such as Rome, such as Greece, such as even ancient Egypt. And we see that the greed, the power, the lust for control was in place at those times. And what happened to those societies? They ended up falling. They ended up crumbling under their own weight because they couldn't hold up the massive amounts of debts that the politicians, the people in charge, put down on us, the so-called peasants.
Exactly. And corruption in any government is a cancer that, as I like to say, metastasized into something that is going to destroy itself. And it never, when you, prime example, Venezuela. You look at that. Now, our our mainstream propaganda media is telling us that Venezuela has fallen. It's done. People are out trying to find food and, fighting and doing all that. I don't know. I'm not there. But I trust that some of that news that is true coming out of there, and I believe it is, because when you look at the very nature of what happened when Hugo Chavez was down there, and he nationalized everything from manufacturing to oil to you name it. He nationalized it. And, that whole thing began to crumble at that point. Now, of course, when you look at Venezuela, some of the people here, the bleeding heart, snowflakes, they're going to say, oh, that's not bad. So we can do that here. We'll just do it differently. There is no, there's no change in what socialism brings to the United States. I don't care if you're a Bernie Sanders supporter. He's a socialist. He wants socialism in America. That's, and he didn't do anything and wasn't even in Congress until he actually had a job when he was 40. So he's a freaking loser. So anyway, when you look at that whole structure of government, which we're not supposed to have a centralized government, we're not supposed to have a centralized banking system, we're not supposed to have a centralized military, but we have all three. When you look at every other country that has a military running the country, yeah, and they do. I mean, you look at Iraq right now, look at Iran. You've got military leaders having their puppets in government. We don't have that here, which not yet anyway, thank goodness. But if we had that here, we'd look like Venezuela.
Oh, absolutely. And, unfortunately, somewhere down the line, that's going to end up happening unless things seriously change. But, all the propaganda is out there. I know you've shared the famous MTV commercial talking about concentration camps, as I've talked about. We've got all these pieces of the puzzle in place. All the propagandists are out there. You've got all of the agitators out there, the paid agitators under George Soros, like the stupid Black Lives Matter and the dumbass Antifas out there, walking around with their hammer and sickles on their flags and wanting to go out and, attack Trump supporters because he's wearing a Make America Great Again hat or T-shirt or whatever, hitting them in the face with everything that they get their hands on while covering up their faces and wearing sunglasses like there's some, elite hit squad. It's like it's garbage like that, and it's garbage like Bernie Sanders and his stupid supporters out here who want to say, white people don't know what it's like to be poor, and we need free college and free health care and everything else. And while Bernie Sanders is riding around in like a $100,000, sports car, and he has a nice $1 million home up there in Vermont, it's like, dude, who are you kidding here, bro? It's like you're not fooling me. You're not fooling Wayne Pierce. You're not fooling, half the Americans out here. You're fooling the young idiots, the young liberal dumbasses who are under you that believe every word that you say, that want to have everything free and not work for anything and not be proud to show what they've worked for anymore. They want handouts. And when they don't get the handout, what do? They go cry in a little safe space and talk about hate speech because you offended them, because you told them you can't have that for free. This society is screwed up, Wayne.
Oh, yeah. Oh, big time. Big time. I watch YouTube videos. You mentioned YouTube. I watch YouTube videos, and I found one, and I found a Henry Rollins video, and he's he still plays music with the Henry Rollins band and everything, and he goes out and he does this spoken word tour sometimes. And I heard some of the stuff he was saying, and I've watched several videos already of him, and this guy's on point. He is just slamming, he's there, and he knows what he's talking about. And I would say that he's one of the voices in America that literally says, here's how it is, and this is what, we should do to alleviate some of the pressures in the anxiety in America. And he just says it like it is, And I saw, there's Jesse Ventura. I'm going to go listen to him. And he had Henry Rollins on. And this was probably from last year or something. But they both liked Bernie Sanders. And I'm like, are you out of your mind? I don't care who you like. Just look at the freaking truth. I don't care if you want to go and hang out with Hillary Clinton. Look at who she is. Look at her whole background. Look at, the Rodham family. Look at, the Clinton cabal. Look at what they've done. It's like me. I'd like to sit down with Vladimir Putin and talk with him and have a, have a drink or something, but I don't like his politics, and I'm not going to like his politics. I just want to talk to the guy, It's not like I'm going to be buds with him or anything, but when you look at these people and examine these facades, the charade they're engaged in, and you look behind them and you see who's supporting them and you see what's happening with them And to them, you're going to find out that once they become leaders, and when you look at Bernie Sanders as an example, when they become leaders, they begin to systematically and methodically destroy the very thing that you want, which is peace, freedom, liberty, and security for the United States, or free, just have that innovation that we can get, we can use and create an atmosphere of entrepreneurship, and we can create things again, But Bernie Sanders and his followers don't want that. They want the big wigs, the rich people, the multi-billionaires in this country to give them everything for free. Well, they're freaking moochers. That's all they are. Like I said, Bernie Sanders never got, worked for a while until he got a job when he was in his 40s or whatever it was. And that's the rumor going around. I don't have information to verify that, but it just shows you the mentality of these people on that side of the aisle, in the Progressive Party, in the Democratic Party, in the Republican Party, some of them. And we see this, and it's this what I said on my podcast earlier today, it's the Saul Alinsky support. It's that philosophy that people have. It's the Cloward and Piven. If you guys out there, if the listeners out there don't know who these are, go look them up. It's the Cloward and Piven strategy under the Saul Alinsky policies. It's like overwhelm the system and destroy it from within. And that's exactly what these people are wanting, is to these Antifa people, these Black Lives Matter. They want to They're within the communities, and they want to tear them down and make them what? What are they going to make them? They're going to make them a bleak, dark area that nobody can live in.
Exactly. And, the people out there who are on the Sanders train still to this day, say how he's anti-establishment and how he's this great, leader that wants to come in, and make people prosperous and everything again is, what part of the term socialist or socialism don't you understand? Because literally what you earn is going to go back into the pool for everybody to enjoy. That's basically what socialism is. You're not working hard and showing, what you worked hard for. Instead, you're going to work hard and put that money back into the community pool so everybody can have, a hand in the cookie jar. That's exactly what it is. And when we look at, a good case in point, when I went out and covered here locally in Las Vegas, the last debate between Trump and Clinton out here at the University of Nevada of Las Vegas, UNLV, when I went out there and I was